In this article, I would like to introduce 3 real-life demon swords in Japan. 1. Mura-masa, the demon sword that curses the Tokugawa family. The first one I'd like to introduce is a demon sword named Mura-masa. It may be the most famous Japanese sword globally, as it appears in a well-known American video game. However, not many people, even in Japan, know why it came to be called a demon sword. First of all, Mura-masa is not the name of a sword, but a swordsmith who lasted for 3 generations during the Muromachi period. Any object made by a blacksmith who inherited Mura-masa was called Mura-masa. It is not sure when Mura-masa began to be called a demon sword, but Mura-masa appeared as a demon sword in a kabuki play in 1797. So, why is Mura-masa called a demon sword? This is because the sword is said to have brought misfortune to the Tokugawa family, who ruled Japan at the time. Mura-masa is said to have haunted the Tokugawa family for 3 generations. The grandfather and father of Ieyasu, the first shogun of the Tokugawa family, were murdered by their vassals. Both of the swords used at that time were Mura-masa. Later, Ieyasu's eldest son, Nobuyasu, committed seppuku on suspicion of treason, and it was Mura-masa that was used at that time. In other words, Ieyasu lost his life in Mura-masa, his grandfather and father, and his children. In 1615, Yukimura Sanada, who attacked Ieyasu's army, also had Mura-masa in his possession, and is said to have thrown it at the fleeing Ieyasu. Not only that, but Ieyasu was injured twice by the dagger and spear that Mura-masa made. This angered Ieyasu, who considered Mura-masa an unlucky sword and ordered his vassals not to possess it and destroy it. For these reasons, Mura-masa became known as the sword that cursed the Tokugawa family. According to one theory, Seigo Takamori, a member of the anti-Tokugawa faction, carried Mura-masa around with him. 2. The Japanese sword that cut the demon, Hige-Kiri. Next up is a Japanese sword, the Hige-Kiri. Hige-Kiri means to cut the beard. This strange sword has changed its name many times with its owner and the times. The Hige-Kiri is said to be a sword made in the Heian period. This sword was handed down to the Minamoto clan, and is said to have been made by Minamoto no Mitsunaka. The name of this sword is a little unusual even for a Japanese person, but the origin of the name is. When the sword was made, it was a good idea to drop the sinner's head in a test cut, but the beard was dropped along with it, hence the name. This means that the sword is sharp enough to cut off even the beard. Mitsunaka is very active with the Hige-Kiri. Later, Hige-Kiri changed its name to Onamaru during the time of Mitsunaka's son. Onamaru means the sword that killed the demon. Hige-Kiri was passed on to Mitsunaka's son, Yorimitsu. There had been several mysterious incidents of people going missing in the capital at that time. The source of the problem lies with a certain nobleman's daughter and her lover. Her lover has changed his mind about her to another woman. She becomes jealous and becomes a demon. This demon was catching and killing men and women alike, so there was a constant stream of missing people in the capital. In the meantime, Tsuna, a retainer, visited Yorimitsu. On the way home, Tuna meets a girl who has turned into a demon. The demon grabbed Tsuna and tried to fly to Mtatago, but Tsuna cut off the demon's arm with a Hige-Kiri that Yorimitsu had given him. This is how Hige-Kiri came to be called Onamaru. Later, Onamaru was called Shishinoko because it cried all night in a lion's voice. Shishinoko means lion cub. Thus, Hige-Kiri, which has anecdotes about cutting demons and beards, or crying with the voice of a lion, is now housed at Kitano Ten Manga Shrine in Kyoto. Three, two-huge sword Nenekirimaru. Last but not least, I have Nenekirimaru. This name is also a little unusual from a Japanese perspective. Nenekirimaru is a sword housed at Fudoraisen Shrine in Nikko, Tochigi Prefecture. The exact date of manufacture and authorship of this sword is not known. The characteristic of this sword is that it is just huge. It is 3.4 meters long, has a blade length of 2.2 meters, and weighs 22.5 kilograms. It is a giant sword that is very difficult to use with human strength, but it does not require human hands. This is not because it is an ornament, but because it is a sword that is said to have moved on its own and cut and killed monsters. In the mountains of Nikko, there was a monster that cried neigh, neigh and misbehaved with the residents of the surrounding area. The inhabitants called the monster Nene. They are scared, and no one wants to kill Nene. Then, one day, a sword enshrined in the shrine started to move on its own and flew in a straight line towards Nene. Nene runs from the sword, but he is cornered and killed in the end. That's why it was given the name Nenekirimaru. How did you feel about it? That's all for this explanation. We will continue to cover all topics related to Japan, so if you have any topics you would like us to cover, please leave a comment. Thank you for watching to the end.